going inside Memorial Sports. This is the Panther Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back in. This is the High School Fan Zone on a Monday. I'll mention again that this week and next week, and then we'll take a break for the summer, just like a lot of high school, I say, coaches and athletes, they really don't take a break. They just don't have to go to school. I don't have to go to school either, but I'll take a break and actually hang out with my wife and daughter who's about to graduate from Lubbock High, so I get to see them a little. They get to see me, I should say. No, I get to see them. That's a better way of putting that. I don't want to get in trouble. We're going to jump in and talk some Memorial girls basketball with Jason Cooper, who I thought maybe his schedule was about to get busy, but it's already been busy because this dude is very involved in basketball on a lot of fronts, and we're going to get him to talk about that. But how are you doing, man? Good. Yeah, it's been as soon as basketball season got over, it got really busy. Yeah, exactly. So. Because
these kids don't take a break. You know, they're all playing on club teams and playing all over the country. We had one weekend we had kids in Pennsylvania, Houston, Dallas, all in the same weekend playing basketball, and I think some were even in Amarillo playing. So it's been fun. You know, they get out there and get in front of some college coaches and get some exposure and, you know, playing great competition, which only helps our program at Memorial.
Yep. And we'll talk more about some of that when we come or later in a minute here. You've got an interest in that at home too. You've got a player at home that's very involved in the summer who had a really good sophomore, junior year. At Trinity Christian, son Jonathan.
Yeah, we've traveled everywhere that you can imagine already. It seems like we went to Kansas City this last weekend and played, and we've got Tulsa this coming weekend, and been to Norman a few times and Bryan, and go to Virginia. So we're definitely getting those IHG rewards at the hotels, and
there you go.
Collecting those points. So maybe someday we'll get to go take a fun trip, and it doesn't involve a sweaty gym.
I'm going to guess that you could keep people up to date on the price of gas right now too.
Yeah, but $4.30 a gallon in Kansas. I'll tell you that.
I talked to my dad last night. They don't get around much, but he would let me know about that if he was out doing stuff.
Yeah, it's not cheap. The trick is you fill your car up when you're about half empty. Then you don't feel it so bad, you know.
Exactly.
And then it still seems kind of normal.
Who does John play for in the summer?
He plays for a group called BYC. It's the local kids, couple Amarillo kids, kid from Groover. But it's we got a Jet Nagley from Trinity's on that team. Yep. Jackson Funk from Liberty's on that team. Andre from Estacado and
Langston.
Yeah, and so it's a good group. It's a good group of local kids, and they're playing good. I have to tell you what, we played a team from Australia this weekend, and they had 4 guys that were 6'8" to 6'11", just huge humans, and so they're getting a lot of good experiences. And sometimes you get in those situations, and it teaches you a lot about what you really are, and come home and start working on some of the weaknesses that were exploited. And it's all about growth right now, and it's a busy time. And anybody that has kids in club sports, they know what I'm talking about. It's it's expensive, time wise and financially. It's these tournaments. It's me and my wife go. It's $120 to get a weekend pass, and this weekend they set you up at the top. You couldn't even yell at the refs very good, so we kind of got jumped off.
You probably don't do that, do you?
A little bit. I might have got fired up a little bit in the last game. My wife had to tell me to stop yelling, but that's part of it. It comes with it, right?
So I'm going to tell a story here. So I've heard that maybe Mrs. Cooper gets on the referees a little bit more than Coach Cooper.
Yeah, she's pretty good about it. I've never done the walk of shame, but when Jonathan was on a tricycle, we were playing in an Amarillo tournament, and Jenna was playing. I was coaching, and Amanda kept running her mouth, and she got thrown out and had to take the walk of shame out of Amarillo High's gym with Jonathan on a tricycle behind her. So,
and she played for a guy who coached for a few years, correct?
Yep, she played for Coach Darden at Shallowater, and her and her sister both. A lot of Shallowater stories. A lot of history and tradition. And Amanda's mom and dad both went to Shallowater. Amanda's dad was on the school board in the '80s when they hired Chuck Darden.
That's incredible when you're talking about a coach being hired in the 80s. The reason I bring up Chuck Darden is I imagine that in 40 years he probably learned a few ways to get his point across and probably had a smile on his face. Oh, yeah. Because I've heard him on radio broadcasts. I know he's still got some energy.
Well, those old coaches, him and Joe Lombards and Clay Stouts and those guys that were in it with Dean Weiss and all those great names from the 80s and 90s. They just did things the right way, and they were really good at what they did. And over 40 years, you saw a lot of change in basketball, and he had a lot of kids, and he was successful with all kinds of different styles of play and types of kids and attitudes. And I've got a lot of respect for him. He did a great job for a long time.
He's produced some pretty good coaches just in his family too.
Yes.
Which you're headed down that road as well. So that's a source of pride for old coaches. So we'll come back and we'll talk more Lady Panther basketball on 100.7 The Score after this.
This is the Panther Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back in. I'm Randy Rosetta. I think I've got the boys standings called up. I've got football standings called up. I will go off the top of my head. I know Memorial tied for the district championship in year one, split with Liberty,
right.
Which you had the misfortune of running into a Decatur that was in the middle of a historic run.
Yeah,
I'm going to guess did you go and help Drew Kaufman pack when he was packing up to go to
I wish we had left a few weeks earlier.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a young man who I saw play. He's probably close in age to you because I saw him play in high school and then came here and played for Bob Knight. And you could tell back then he knew a little bit of basketball.
I think he's going to do really good at Midwestern. He ran like a college style program. They ran a lot of really good stuff, high level, extra screens and little odds and ends that you don't see much in high school, and that's hard. It's hard to defend, and when your team's first time they see it and first time they experience it, it kind of shocks you. But he had a super talented team too. He had 8 or 9 really good players, and that along with him, so no surprise that they won it again. And we knew we were going up against a buzzsaw, but
But I'll say the same thing. J. January was on earlier. I'll say the same thing to you. I think that's good for your girls now. They've seen that. They know exactly. Now he won't be there, but they could run into Decatur again, or they could run into. They're not going to run into Canyon because you guys are going to be 5A, but they're going to run into somebody at 5A that's going to be similar to that. Now your girls have an idea of, okay, we've got to really execute every single play here.
Yeah, and going into this new district is going to be. It's going to be, talk about a buzzsaw. It's going to be intense every night. There's not going to be a lot of moments where you can let your guard down. So, I think we learned a lot this year, and that Decatur game, it was it was good for us, and I don't know that I like how the UIL split the playoffs. It's my first year back, and we didn't do that before. It was kind of frustrating to me just thinking numbers wise. We're 26 wins on the year, and we got to play them right away. And then you look up, and there's teams in the 3rd and 4th round with losing or 500 records. So that was kind of hard for me to understand and wrap my brain around it. But if we don't run into Decatur right then, who knows how far we can go. But that's how it is. You can't. Everybody can say that, I guess. You lose your last game. If we didn't have to play them, we might have kept playing. But it was a tall order. And I tell you what, our kids fought their hearts out, and I don't know how many times we hit the floor in that game, on purpose, diving for balls, but also just getting our tail whipped a little bit and getting knocked down. I was proud of our fight, and I think that's what we didn't understand how to do the first 5 or 6 games of the year was how hard you had to work to win. Winning looks easy, but it's not easy. And I think if nothing else this year, we figured out, man, you got to bust your tail every day at practice, and there's no breaks on the court. You got to get out there and get after it all the time, and especially when you're playing good teams, because the minute you jog, they get a layup. The minute you put your hands on your knees, they pounce on you. So hopefully we learned some of those things. Those are the kind of things you can't simulate in practice very well. When you're playing against your JV. You don't get the same look as when you're playing against, these really good, talented teams. So in a sense, I think our new district, with all these good teams in it, if we can get into the playoffs again, which is absolutely our plan, we'll be a little more battle-tested, a little sharper, ready to make a deeper playoff run.
I've said this to other Memorial coaches and to friendship coaches. I think what's going to help mentality in that district is that while you saw Liberty and Estacado and even Levelland a little bit, there's a little familiarity with this district, they're almost at least more than half the games that those girls are going to see girls that they play against all the time. They've grown up with, and that's going to add a little bit of juice.
Yeah, it's going to be. You look at the district, and there's 6 teams in that district that were this past season were state ranked.
Yep, and
and
6 playoff teams.
Yeah, and I mean, the team right down the street from us is going to be, that they've got what I would say is the best player in the region with Jada Jackson, and it's going to be a challenge every night.
Your girls will be busy this summer. You'll be busy this summer. We're coming up to the end here, but real quick, you mentioned Jonna Pointer, your sister-in-law, like you, a former Wayland coach. Hoops 10 is a program that's well known in West Texas. It's going to establish a little bit more of a footprint here in Lubbock.
Yeah. Hoop 10 is it's a great club program and run great tournaments. There's a lot less of the crazy stuff that goes on in the stands and around the sidelines at Hoop 10 tournaments than your typical Lubbock tournaments that I've seen. Got one coming up next weekend here. It's a great program, hoop10.com. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, we got 2 tournaments coming up in Lubbock. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's a great experience for young women and men to play in.
I may bug you this summer and get you to talk more about it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Right now, though, we're going to transition, cut to this final break. We'll come back in the Patriot Fan Zone after this on 100.7 The Score.